Thank you so much, Ms. Liza, for joining us for the Empowered CEO Summit, where we are motivating and inspire women to work smarter and not harder by leveraging AI. So it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for loaning us a bit of your time. Your story and your journey are so inspiring. So I just want to first thank you so much for being here.
April, I'm so excited to be here. And when you first reached out to me, I automatically was just, it was like, you're a magnet, April. So
Oh,
I'm so excited to be here.
awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to just introduce the audience to your wonderful background, and then we're going to dig into the juicy insights. So,
Good.
Miss Lisa, it's again a pleasure to have you here. And you are a distinguished expert in the AI adoption and strategic growth space. You have over 20 years of experience leading businesses and marketing teams. As a leader at the Growth Path Partners, you guide organizations on their AI journey using a unique three-step AI adoption accelerator approach, which I can't wait to dig into more. This methodology encompasses inspiring and educating teams through interactive workshops, developing a strategic AI plan, and also executing AI infrastructure and operations to ensure responsible, let's repeat, responsible integration into daily work. In addition to your role at Growth Path Partners, you have served as a fractional CMO, a consultant, and AI advisor. Your expertise expands growth strategies, innovative product launches, and evolving marketing into a key growth engine. I love that. You have been recognized as one of the top 50 CMOs to watch in 2024 by Pavilion, and you were named a key person to follow in AI at G2's G2. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, G2,
uh,
right.
G2's 2023 Reach event. That is amazing. Your insights have also been featured in prominent publications such as Forbes and Marketing Professionals. And with executive experience across diverse sectors and companies ranging from 40 million to 4 billion. I had to reread that because I wanted to make sure that I was saying billion with a B. So that again is amazing. In that, you've held pivotal roles at leading organizations such as Smartsheet, Pure Storage, and Juniper Networks. You are committed to promoting diversity and inclusion, which is very important in the age of AI, and also in the decision-making process, ensuring ethical use of AI while fostering innovation that drives sustainable growth. We are so honored, Lisa, to have you here with us. I love so many different parts of your journey and how they all come together. Can you kind of give us like a background of how you got started from the beginning?
Wow. Listening to that, I have to pinch myself. I tell people I pinch myself every day to just make sure that I'm living in a reality.
Mm.
So April, I am an immigrant to the United States. I was born and raised in Manila, very poor family. I had to
Mm.
make some choices sometimes between putting food on the table and going to school. And
Mm.
got very lucky and very grateful for people who helped me along the way and had an opportunity to come to the United States when I was 14. So I
Wow.
came to the US by myself when I was 14. And
Wow.
a choice that my family and I made to help ensure the future, not just
Mm.
for my future, but the future of the family. And I lived with a foster family in Michigan. In high school, was introduced to some STEM opportunities
Mm.
um, before going into college. And one of my key turning moments in my life was this girls in engineering program at
Mm.
the Michigan Tech University at Houghton, Michigan, where they introduced us high schoolers, girl high schoolers, to various parts of engineering, aerospace, mechanical, electrical, chemical, ceramic engineering, so on and so forth. And at that point, I realized I wanted to be an engineer. I
Wow.
am not a great reader. I'm a slow reader, but I was pretty decent in science and math. And I loved math because I didn't have to read so much. I would literally just skim through the chapters and go to the back of the chapter and work the problems, work
Hmm.
the calculations. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go into engineering because it leveraged my strength. And ended up going to college here and it changed my life. I became an electrical engineer, and with the help of a lot of people who, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? I'm very
Hmm.
grateful to this country and to Americans for, just giving me so much opportunity and allowing me to really flourish and show my strength and show what I can give. So to this day, I pinch myself, as you read my bio, to go from a poor girl in Manila to someone
Wow.
who's been an executive in Silicon Valley, now doing AI. I work with a lot of gratitude, and I work with
Mm.
um, a lot of intent of paying it forward and inspiring others who look like me and have a background like me, that dreams do come true. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. And first of all, I did not catch from your bio that you came here at 14 years old by yourself.
Well, I don't necessarily put that on LinkedIn.
Right. That's,
And
I
in
mean, I
fact,
don't even know, how did you even like muster up the strength? Like that's a huge responsibility at 14. Like, wow.
well, I think children have this natural ability to adapt better than adults, right? And
That's
I
true.
think, I look back and I keep thinking, now I'm a mother of a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old. There's no way I would let my child do that, right? But my mom and dad are some of the most selfless people in the world. But I think in times of hardship, you have to make
Yeah.
choices, and we had to make that choice. And looking back now, it is the best choice. It was the best choice. And
Mm.
I actually don't remember it being that difficult. As a
Wow.
child, you adapt and
Hmm.
you do what it takes, and you get some support from people. And but then I do look back and just am so amazed by the number of people that have helped me along the way.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that you work with gratitude. And I feel like people who have gratitude in their kind of toolkit, those are the people that really accelerate in terms of their growth. And so if you think of coming to the US at 14, and now you're one of the top 50 CMOs to watch in 2024, like that's a huge, that's an amazing story of success. So I'm sure your parents are like, yeah, we let's pat ourselves on the back. We did a we did a great job there. Yeah,
Well,
do you
and
think?
that's why I say, I'm trying my best to pay it forward, right?
Hmm.
Especially in the area of STEM,
Yeah.
technology, AI.
Hmm.
I want more women to lean in, especially in the
Yeah.
world of AI. If AI is supposed to benefit all of humanity, we need to ensure that all voices are represented, so
Yeah.
that it does benefit all, and rather than just the select few.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And actually, I did a post this morning because this week was National Daughters Week, which I actually had forgotten about. So I always come up with an idea and then I use Perplexity a lot. So I use it to like brush up the idea. And what came back to me was very interesting. So I said, hey, it's National Daughters Week. I want to do a shout out to my daughters and then X, Y, and Z. And so it generated a response and said, as a father, such and such and such and such. And I said, why did you assume that I was a father? And it apologized and said, oh, that was a terrible assumption, this and that. And then I kept prompting it. And I said, was your assumption that I'm a father based on bias? And it went through the whole thing, like based on stereotypical data. So I'm going to actually post about it later, but just going to your point where women have to lean in, like we have to be a part of this AI transformation. And we actually need to be a part of it now because maybe someone else would not have caught like this is bias. And we need to now retrain the tools to know that a woman can be a CEO and in tech and give a shout out to her daughters as inspiration. Like that has to be a common theme now. What are your thoughts about? Because I know you're in the ethical space, you're doing responsible AI. When it comes to bias, how are you, navigating those conversations?
Well, I was just thinking about your example there. That is just such a perfect example of us needing to guide AI and constantly providing human oversight for
Mhm.
AI because AI learns from human beings and
Right.
human beings have natural bias. So it
Hmm.
is on us to ensure that we, check for bias, right? Like people like you and me need to consistently check it for bias. So I
Hmm.
love that example. I've not heard that example, but it's perfect. The other thing about there's this study that was published most recently in The Economist that
Hmm.
says that women use AI 16 to 20% less than men.
Wow.
And, when I saw that, I said, okay. I knew inherently that this was a challenge, but now we're putting statistics against it. We now have data. And one of the reasons that it's cited, there were many reasons why it said that women are not using it as much as men. I think partially it's called AI, right?
Yeah.
It tends to be intimidating. Artificial intelligence inherently sounds really techy.
Hmm.
It's more in the STEM field, and naturally today there are not as many women in that field. So
Right.
the numbers are already against us, right, from the very
Right.
beginning.
Yeah.
But there's also this other element which caught my eye that said that women tend to have this good girl attitude
Mm-hmm.
where they don't want to be perceived as not following the rules because they are thinking about AI as a shortcut to doing good work or a shortcut to doing the hard work that it takes to succeed, right? And as a
Hmm.
result, they're not using it because they want to
Yeah.
prove that we can
Yeah.
do the job. We could do it ourselves and we don't need
Yeah.
AI to help us, which I
Hmm.
thought was so interesting. Um, but if I think about that, I think there's this perception challenge that we have with AI. If I could
Hmm.
just address a couple of things
Yes,
here.
please.
The
Hmm.
first thing is around, yeah, the first thing is around that the fact that people think that it's technical and it's not for me. It's for people who love math and science. I actually think that AI democratizes
Yeah.
strategic thinking and critical thinking. It is not technical at all. We don't have to code. We don't have to know Java or any of these languages. In fact, we can talk to it like a normal human being. We have a
Exactly.
conversation in natural language, right? So if we are challenged in STEM fields, that's okay. Because
Hmm.
now it's lowering the barriers to entry.
Right.
We can showcase our capabilities, our strengths, our expertise, our experiences without having all that technical knowledge, the ability to
Right.
code or being someone who gravitates towards STEM fields. So that's one aspect of it that I think we just need to shift our thinking.
Yeah.
And one of the key examples I tell like some of the moms at my child's middle school, I tell them that one of my first use cases for AI was I took a picture of my open pantry. So I took a picture,
Uh,
loaded it to ChatGPT, and I said, I have to make dinner for the kids tonight. I don't have time to go to the grocery store. these are all the ingredients that I have in the house. Can you please give me 2 to 3 recipes that are good for children who are 12 to 17? And
Hmm.
it gave me the recipes, right? There's nothing technical about that. I gave
Right.
it a picture, and spoke to it in mom language, and it gave me the ability to prepare dinner that evening. So that's just one example, right? And then that
Yeah.
leads into the business world where you can take screenshots of websites and say, help me optimize this website for conversion based on this audience, that kind of thing in the marketing world. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And this air and this perception, this thinking around, hey, I don't need AI to make things better because I'm going to work hard. I don't cheat and I don't take shortcuts. This is one where I think we need a little bit of work in just better understanding AI. Um,
Yeah.
I think AI as a tool, right?
Hmm.
It's a tool to help us.
Hmm.
But my good friend Andy Crestodina, who's just a brilliant, brilliant digital and content marketer, he says AI stands for average information. It
Mm.
only is good when we guide it with our expertise, our knowledge, and unique data.
Correct.
Absent our expertise and knowledge to guide it, it's going to give us very generic responses based on the 85% of the internet data that it's trained on. That
Right.
it's not going to be able to give us responses that are relevant to our lives, to our businesses, or to our careers. So if that's the
Exactly.
case, it is really on us to guide it, right? So it's still the human being allowing this to perform at its highest levels, at least today. Like, that's my
Yeah.
caveat because AI
Right.
will
Today.
continue to get better, right?
Right. Yeah.
so, so from that perspective, I don't think about it as taking shortcuts. I don't think about it as cheating. I think about it as um, let me do a little sidebar. When I
Hmm.
build teams, I believe in the power of the Justice League. If
Oh
you like
yeah.
superheroes, Justice
Uh-huh.
League has 7 superheroes with complementary superpowers, each one, having their own strengths, but they all have the same mission to save the world, right? We don't
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
7 Wonder Women. We don't have 7 Supermen. We have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman,
Yeah.
Flash, Cyborg, so on and so forth, right? They all have different strengths, but they all have the same goal. In the
Right.
world of AI, I believe the same thing. There are
Hmm.
humans and there
Yeah.
are robots or agents or AI agents, whatever you want to call them, right? We have complementary superpowers with
Yeah.
AI and human beings. So if I think about AI, very good in processing, right? Like deep analytics, can process a lot of data, and can spit it up very quickly, spit out a response very quickly. Us, on the other hand, we've got empathy. We learn from experiences.
Right.
We are situational. We can adapt, right? On the AI front, the weakness is, all right, they can do these things, but they have no consciousness. you know,
Right.
they
Right.
they they,
Yeah.
they can't adapt very quickly. Our weakness, on the other hand, we can't remember squat. Like, I barely remember anything that I did last week, right?
Right.
So you think about the strengths and weaknesses of human beings and AI, it's like the Justice League, right? If we can
Yeah.
figure out a way to collaborate and work together, humans can help overcome the machines' weaknesses, the
Right.
machines can overcome the people's weaknesses. In combination, we guide AI to ensure that
Yeah.
we elevate humanity. So
Yeah.
that's how I think about it. I don't think about it as cheating. I think about, if we want to go fast, we want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We're going to go
Yeah.
far together by using AI responsibly.
Exactly. I love that you love the Justice League, by the way. That's one of my favorite movie genres to follow. So I'm also a big Justice League fan. And I like how you paint the picture of partnership. You know, it's like we're allies, we're not enemies. AI is going to help us to accomplish our goals faster and probably more efficient. And it's also interesting what you mentioned around the technical elements of AI. And so for me, when I'm talking to people, they're like, of course you're into AI. You're a nerd. You love like Google Sheets, you know, you love Excel, you love coding, you're an engineer. And so like, of course, it makes sense for you to love it. I'm like, I'm now teaching my mom how to use AI. She has a bakery. She's very creative. She's very artsy. And so she's amazed by all of the things. She has like thousands of to-do lists and thousands of ideas. And so helping her to streamline and ideate using AI, it has been like a game changer for her. So I love that you point out that it's not just for technical people, even though the language does create a barrier. When you hear anything that's prompt
Yes.
engineering and you love art, you're like, okay, that's clearly not for me. You know,
Not for
machine
me.
learning. You're like, no, I don't like machine learning. I want to draw. You know, so I think the language can be misleading. But how do you, for non-technical, because marketing now, you have technical people, non-technical people. Marketing itself is a science and an art. And so when you're putting those teams together and you have non-technical people on the team, how are you equipping them with, is it more training? Is it more patience? Like, how are you equipping them to really succeed with the tools?
I think it is such an important question, April. You know, if you think about it, the big AI companies are literally racing to advance AI, right? It's
Hmm.
all about the technology. And there's very little effort compared to the innovation part around how to best apply or use AI responsibly in our personal lives and in our work lives.
Hmm.
What that really means is it is more on us, the
Right.
users, the public that will be using AI in our daily work and life to figure out the best way to use this.
Yeah.
Well, the challenge is I keep telling people, you know, it is as if OpenAI dropped off a bunch of really powerful Lego pieces at our doorstep in November of 2022.
Right.
Unfortunately, it did not come in a box that had a picture of what to build, nor instructions for how to build
Instructions.
it.
Right. Yeah.
So we are all learning and trying to understand this together. No
Yeah.
one has the best practices. No one has the perfect set of instructions. All we have is our, deep curiosity to do
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
experiments, explorations, experiences, what works and what doesn't work. And I contend for us to move together, we need to share.
Hmm.
We need to
Yeah.
share those
Yeah.
experiences and learn from each other, right? The more
Hmm.
we share, the better off all we are. The rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
And if you think about the, you go into Chat GPT, the website, the console, you get this little conversation box at the bottom.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, it looks kind of like a search engine, right? And it looks like you could ask it questions and you could give it answers. But it's a huge leap from that to actually using it as a thought partner for strategic
Right.
thinking, to use it
Hmm.
for automation or for analytics,
Hmm.
personalization. Like that's such a huge leap for a lot of people because we have
Hmm.
a preconceived notion of what conversation boxes look like or what they do
Right.
because we're used to Google, right?
Right.
When we do searches, but now something
Hmm.
is a lot more powerful, and no one is really teaching us how to use it
Oh,
and what's the
yeah.
potential of it, right? Or
Hmm.
if there are people, there are very few of them. So
Hmm.
what I try to do is, part of my work and part of my passion is in improving AI literacy. AI literacy to me is
Mm,
foundational because
true.
if we understand AI, at the very least, we can make better decisions for ourselves, for our families, for our careers, our teams, our businesses, and then for society. If we do not understand AI, we have the risk of being influenced by others who may or may not have the same values as we do. So at
Right.
the very least, that's
Exactly.
baseline, right? It's just adaptability and understanding. The second thing is for those of us who do have more time than others to better understand I do feel that
Hmm.
we have some sort of responsibility to help the rest and bring them
Yeah.
along. And I
Hmm.
think we need to be super graceful and respectful for wherever people are in this AI journey, because not
Yeah.
everybody is intensely curious. Not everybody has the time to deeply understand AI and play with it. And it also varies by use case. I give the example of my husband. He's a published
Hmm.
author. And at one point, he was very hesitant to work with AI because he feared that AI will take his original ideas and start writing the rest of the series of his novel. But at the same
Wow.
time, he is also a right leg amputee from cancer,
Mm,
and he embraces robotics because he
robot. Oh,
knows how well
yeah.
robotics can change the way people work and live. So
Hmm.
people's acceptance or non-acceptance of AI might not even be by person, but by use
Right.
case.
Right.
So from that perspective, this responsibility to help bring others along, I for me and my work with marketers, I try to show how to use AI in very specific use cases in very specific roles and functions. So how
Right.
do you actually use, let's say a digital marketer, a web marketer? How would you use AI to make your brand relevant in AI search? Because the world of search is changing. People are now using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Perplexity for
Mhm.
search versus traditional Google. So, as
Yeah.
companies and as brands, how do we ensure that our thought leadership, our content, and our brands show up in those responses that people are
Right.
now going to be using in natural language in AI search? So we
Hmm.
use AI to figure out what that strategy looks like. And that's highly
Hmm.
relevant to a digital marketer. So I think the more we get into specific use cases so that people can see themselves and their
Hmm.
work in how to use AI, the more it will land and it will sink in on how to best use it.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more because when I link the overwhelm of I also link it to people who are trying to do everything. They're trying to do it from making recipes to building billion-dollar businesses all at the same time. And so when you look at it from a use case perspective, like something very clear, something very strategic, and something that you can measure, like, is this working? Is it not working? That's where people can be more empowered in terms of utilizing the tool. So I would love to see more specific use cases, and I've made a note of that I want to start helping people in that way as well. I wanted to talk back to responsible AI because I feel like
Mm.
before I was hearing it a lot more responsible AI, ethical AI, and then I feel like a lot of people like forgot about the responsible part and they're just like in a race to become the thought leader in the race to monetize it. And so my initial idea of responsible AI was just common sense. Like, of course, we have to be responsible with it. It's powerful. And then I took a course where I was learning to build responsible chatbots. And I was like, oh, people are not building things responsibly. Like it was like a night and day experience. So that assumption, I was definitely wrong in just assuming that, responsible was the floor. It's a luxury for people to actually really focus in on that. And so in terms of your feeling of responsibility, yes, you want to kind of help people along, but how else are you using AI responsibly and also with the ethical background that you have in your background in your intro?
Yeah. So I use the analogy of a hammer because a hammer is a
Mm,
tool, just like AI is a tool. And it really depends on the intent of the person using it, on ultimate impact of that hammer, right? So a hammer can be used to build, but it can also be used to destroy.
right.
So, most recently I was at the CU, Colorado University Boulder, and that little dog, I can't remember the little dog's name now, that's a robot. And it competed in a mission for a rescue mission.
Mm,
And the developer of the robot basically says there's a fine line between rescuing and killing, right? Because you
ooh.
can actually deploy the robot to find people and rescue them, or you can deploy the robot to find people and kill, right?
Mm,
So there's this whole notion around, hey, what is the intent? What is ethical? What is right and wrong? And that to just make this really tangible, especially for marketers, because that's the world that I live in. Um, I believe marketers, business people, AI will push us to become more strategic and
mhm,
more authentically human. And, strategic in a sense that it will force us to think about our target audiences, the right businesses, because as an example, if you don't have a good product market fit or your product doesn't exactly fit the market, and then you
mhm.
do a lot of campaigns to market
Yeah.
and sell that product. The analogy I use is it's like doing an all-out campaign for snowblowers in Florida, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Wasting a
You've got
lot
a
of
bad
time and
product market fit.
energy,
Nobody's
right?
going to buy it, right? So we should be using AI to deeply analyze markets, analyze our core competencies, and figure out where the match is. So that's how it can
Mhm.
will push us to become more strategic. Otherwise, it will just amplify the problem.
Yeah.
When I say that it will push us to become more authentically human, and I think this gets into the responsible and ethical use of AI, marketers, I believe our jobs just got harder because I
Mm,
think of our jobs as now doing a balancing act
mhm.
between what we can make possible from a technology and business perspective while maintaining values that are important to humans. So if we think about
Mm,
that, we need to balance personalization with privacy,
yeah.
convenience with transparency, efficiency with empathy,
Mm,
innovation with ethics, automation with the human touch, right?
yeah.
So a perfect example of this is Google's new AI tool called Notebook LM.
Yeah.
Love this tool, right? For those of you who are not aware or don't know about Notebook LM, one of the key features of that tool is that you can upload or share a link, a PDF of some written piece of content. It could be thought leadership content, it could be a recipe, it could be anything, right? And click on the button that says audio overviews or something like that. And within less than 5 minutes or even less, um, it will basically create an AI podcast where there
Mhm.
are these two people, AI hosts, they're not human beings, talking about that paper or that link, right?
That's
It's a
amazing.
very
Yeah.
natural conversation. They make the topic relatable. It's so approachable. They use analogies to broaden the relatability of the topic. They use pop culture. It's a little American right now, but
Yes.
it's going to improve over
More
time,
diverse.
more
Yeah.
diverse, right? Like, and it's
Mm,
only those two voices, a man and a woman. But my goodness, it just opened up the aperture in for diverse learning. Like, I don't read
yeah.
very well. I'm an auditory learner, right? So it opened up the aperture. So when going back to responsible and ethical use, we start
Mhm.
thinking about, okay, like I use it all the time. I upload a bunch of really dense reports. I don't want to read it, but you know what? I'm going to go
Mhm.
walk the dog for an hour. Once it's in a podcast form, I can listen to it, right? Then
Right. And
then I can
absorb
really
the
absorb.
information. Mhm.
That's right.
Mhm.
But then if you think about it for commercial uses, like a marketer,
Mhm.
right? Or a business that decides I'm going to do a white paper and I'm going to turn it into a podcast, the ethical and responsible piece of this should be that we don't pass it off as a human podcast. We need to
Right.
be
Right.
completely transparent that we have a disclaimer, and I'm no lawyer, so the language is not right. We should
Mhm.
always consult with legal on this. When we use
Right.
AI for external purposes, we might say something like, this podcast is an AI generated podcast.
Mhm.
The hosts are not human; they are AI hosts. The podcast was generated to help with efficiency in timeliness of delivery of information, and to
Right.
expand this to more diverse learning capabilities, right? Something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So we are
Mhm.
not presenting it as something that it's not. We are being very
Right.
transparent about the use of AI. And we should say in that disclaimer, there was human oversight that was done in the creation of this
Mhm.
podcast to ensure the accuracy of the information, something like that. So that's just one example of how
Yeah.
I believe we should be thinking about the ethical use of AI.
Yeah, because once you break the trust, like for me, if someone tries to pass something off as human and it's I can't trust you. But if you say, "Hey, this was generated by AI," I'm like, "Okay, I can fully buy into it because I you're just being authentic and transparent." And so I think for people who are looking to leverage that, so a small business owner, you're the chief officer, as long as you're being transparent, you can actually really boost your marketing efficiency by using these different, AI tools. So I love that you bring that to light. It's like, okay, use the tools, just be transparent and be honest about it, as you're building your business. I did want to jump a
Yeah.
bit to strategy, as you mentioned earlier. Your three-step unique process. I wanted to see, is that something for large organizations? Is it something a small business owner can use? How do you typically break that down for people who are looking to leverage, like, because I think it's overwhelming for people. They're like, I need to use AI. It's like, what are the steps? Like, how do I jump in? So I love when people have frameworks that they guide people through.
Yeah, the framework that my team and I came up with, it's fairly broad, right? I love
Hmm.
frameworks because it allows us to break down very complex problems into bite-sized, more consumable pieces. And
Hmm.
the framework has three steps where the first step, oh, I've got puppies here.
Yeah.
So the first step of the framework is really inspiring teams or
Mhm.
businesses, whether it's big or small, with what's possible with AI, right? Going beyond the thinking that this is just a fancy search engine or question and answer machine. So, as we talked about, what are those use cases, right? So, can
Yeah.
I use this thing to optimize my website? Can I use this thing to create some content? Can I
Mhm.
use AI to personalize some emails? Maybe I can automate the way that I bill or the way that I can respond to very specific types of customer questions. So there's a number of things that people can think about in their use of AI. So one is just inspiring what's possible. And then when people see the possibilities, their mind just broadens into other areas where they're now
Right.
using AI literally in everything that they do responsibly, right? So a huge
Right.
part of
Yeah.
that is not just knowing the use cases, but how do you use it responsibly? And where's that line? And sometimes there's a blurred
Mhm.
line between irresponsible and responsible use of AI. The second
Yeah.
thing is, we don't need to go all in on AI and that tomorrow, overnight, we're going to be using AI in everything that we do. We have to be super graceful with ourselves
Yeah.
because this is a journey, right? And AI
Right.
is it's moving so fast, and we have lives, and we need to just give ourselves a little grace, right? So
Hmm.
instead of thinking about all the possibilities, think about a handful of use cases where we believe
Hmm.
that AI can make the most difference. Maybe it's
Yeah.
three to five use cases. And if you're a really large company, or a mid-sized company, or even a small company, where I find is if you can select some use cases and align them to strategic initiatives that are
Right.
important to the business, then we have a better shot at those use cases actually being adopted and making an impact. The reason being, strategic initiatives tend to have goals,
Hmm.
timelines, budget,
Right.
owners, resources applied against them. And oftentimes they get a lot of visibility, maybe the executive team all the way into the board,
Right.
depending on the size of the organization, right? So just
Hmm.
putting ourselves in a position where we have a better chance of success is
Yeah.
really good, because success breeds success, right? And then you
Hmm.
find, oh, one or two use cases allowed us to save this much money, or our quality is better, or we were able to rethink the process. Then now you can begin to add more things to that list.
Right.
And then the last phase is really more, how do we scale this thing, right? Because we
Mm.
can't be in experimentation mode all the
Right.
time.
Always.
Some,
Yeah.
at some point, we got to scale this thing, right? And
Hmm.
I think there are a lot of things that are needed to scale AI, particularly in the area of data, because
Yeah.
AI needs data. It smarts is fueled by the information that we give it. The more unique our
Hmm.
data, the better expertise, the better context we give it, the better the outputs. So with
Right.
data's messy, data's not clean. How do we ensure that across the business we have good data, accurate, it's timely, it's in the right format, it's in the right structure. Everybody in
Right.
the company can use the right sets of data. We know where the single source of truth is. Like, all those
Yeah.
things have to be figured out, data, platforms, workflows, ethical, responsible use. At some
Yeah.
point, all of that needs to be scaled across the business, so that not every person is having to think about each one of those things.
The
There needs to
whole.
be like a cross-functional team that thinks about those and has
Yeah.
some best practices.
I love that. I think it's can be overwhelming, but the way that you kind of have a step-by-step process, it goes from inspiration to implementation. You're like very inspired. We could do all the things. Okay, what are the things that are really going to make a difference in our business? And how do we collect the data that can help us build that momentum? So I think for any business, even someone who's starting off, they can say this can be a really good starting point. And I think now when people are starting up, they have to be thinking about AI. Like there's no startup in today's world where you're not including this technology. So I really love that step by step process. This has been, I'm actually just looking at the time, like this has been, I have literally like 5 pages of notes. So I'm a techie, but I also love writing notes. So like capture everything. But this has been so awesome. You give like such an inspiring story of someone who was introduced to STEM very early on, very legacy driven from your journey. And I'm sure your parents are like over the moon proud of you. And you're continue to inspire everyone that looks at your posts, looks at your website and the work that your business is doing. So I just want to thank you for taking this time to spend with us at our summit. And then for anyone who's like, wow, I really need to know more about what she's doing. How can I connect with her? Could you provide some links or some resources where people can locate you and support what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. So it's just Liza, it's Liza Adams. And you can also visit my website, which is growthpath.net. And April, thank you for all the amazing work that you do for this community. I have similar passions and thank you for having me on the show to help elevate the cause. Much appreciated.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate you and awesome. Thank you.